Hi, I'm Bob Wolfe. I've been getting a real kick out of taking another look at these pictures here in Mr. Clark Griffith's office. You know, Mr. Griffith typifies the spirit of baseball's past and the strength of baseball's future, the solid structure of our national pastime. He's won admiration and respect and fame as a player, a manager, and a club owner. And I'd like you to meet him. Here's the president of the Washington Nationals, Mr. Clark C. Griffith.
Thank you, Bob. Baseball has been awfully good to me, and I've tried to be good to the grand old national game and also especially to the baseball fans of Washington. When I look back on all of these pictures around my wall here and see all those great stars that played for me in the bygone days, it gives me a great thrill. By that, those players, I mean Walter Johnson, Bucky Harris, Joe Cronin, Bossy Blugie, Goose Garza, and Sam Rice, and a lot of those fellows that made history here in Washington. They were a great bunch of ball players, and Bucky Harris brought me the championship of the world in 1924, and Cronin brought us the championship in 1933. So I have many fond memories to look back to. This is a look at the past, but this is another season. We all live in hopes of seeing a winning ball club in Washington this year.
The story of the Washington Nationals begins in Winter Garden, Florida, home of the Nats' top farm club, the Chattanooga Lookouts, and the schooling stage for future Washington players.
Hello there, I'm Arch McDonald, ladies and gentlemen, and these gentlemen here with me represent some 200 years of baseball experience. They're all here as instructors in the famous Washington Senators spring training camp where the farm clubs are working. And here we have Pete Appleton and Charlie Letches, two of the instructors. Next, Cal Irmer, manager of the Chattanooga Baseball Club. Next, Sherry Robertson, assistant director of the Washington Farm Organization. And finally, Ossie Blugie, one of the all-time great infielders who is director of farm clubs and farm organization for the Washington Club. Ossie, now that we've made ourselves acquainted, suppose you step over here and tell us something about what these gentlemen here are doing to coordinate your plans for the future development of the young kids.
Well, I'll tell you, Arch, this camp is, of course, designed to instruct and teach our young minor league ball players.
Yes.
And the men you've just introduced here are the men in charge of instruction and teaching these youngsters in the finer points and the basic fundamentals of the game. And thereby, of course, we hope to improve the type and skill of play in our various clubs, on our various clubs.
And so actually you have an expert in each department, is that right?
That's correct.
I wonder if we could see one in action, Oz.
Yes, let's take a look around here. You'll find Pete Appleton on the mound teaching the pitchers how to wheel and make that pickoff play at second base. Now let's see how these youngsters pick this thing up. Here we find pitcher Francis Zeiss going through the same actions. And there you are. Keep an eye on him. There he goes. That was good, you see. That's what we're trying to teach these boys, to wheel quickly and throw that ball into the second baseman or shortstopper who's ever covering. Now here's a left-hander coming up by the name of Ludwig. Now, let's see. There he is. Well, now, that was all right, but he had a little lost motion as far as I'm concerned. He didn't get rid of the ball quick enough. You got to jump off of that rubber in order to pick that man off. Quick, quick. That's it.
At Winter Garden, instructors and coaches place particular emphasis on baseball fundamentals. Rookies and prospects drill and learn the little things that someday may help Washington win the big games. Ever interested in the development of his minor league players, Clark Griffith listens intently as Chattanooga President Joe Engel brings him up to date on likely prospects.
Sherry, you know, you seem to be pretty busy here now, working with these kids out around second base. Just what are you doing?
Well, Arch, we're here today. We're showing these boys how to make that double play. You want me to give you a little exhibition
Yeah,
here?
I'd like to see it.
The double play, perhaps the most important defensive maneuver in baseball, receives special attention from Sherry Robertson. Sherry teaches the youngsters to work together, stressing teamwork at all times. Cal Irmer, Chattanooga manager, demonstrates the wrong way to take a lead off base. Never break from your right foot. The correct method is to pivot, push with the right foot, and take off with the left foot. Simple, but important, for the extra step may be the difference between winning or losing a game. Music to the ears of hungry young ball players is the pleasing peal of the chow bell. It's obvious by their haste that these boys have worked up king-sized appetites. The players are joined at lunch by Joe Engel, Mr. and Mrs. Griffith, and other Nats executives. Incidentally, Joe Engel, the head man at the Washington Baseball School, organized and set up the Winter Garden training site. Baseball is their business, but like everyone else, the ball players welcome relaxation. Fishing at Lakeview Lodge is a favorite diversion for many of the boys. If they can collect base hits as fast as they caught these perch, they'll be in the big leagues in no time at all. Although in terms of actual distance, only 11 miles separate Winter Garden from Orlando, the road for most rookies is not so short or simple. Orlando, Florida, springtime home of the Washington Nationals, is one of the country's most delightful and beautiful resort cities. It's famous for its 44 freshwater lakes, wholly or partly within the city limits, and for the beauty of its gardens and public parks. Tinker Field is alive with activity as the Washington Baseball Club begins its rigorous spring training drills. Located in the sun-drenched center of the Florida Peninsula, Orlando presents the Nats with ideal conditions to prepare for the campaign ahead. Spring training affords the Washingtonians an excellent opportunity to familiarize themselves with new rule changes. Catcher Bruce Edwards practices with pitchers in the new restricted catcher's box. Off-season poundage melts away under the hot Florida sunshine as infield drills speed up the training pace. Joining the Nats official family as an interested spectator at the workouts is the mayor of Orlando, J. Rolfe Davis.
Hello, Mr. Griffith, Mrs. Griffith, Calvin, how are you? Nice to see you down here, and certainly this is not new to you. You've been sitting in these Orlando stands since about 1936.
That's right.
And actually, Mr. Griffith, didn't you bring one of the first clubs to Florida?
Yes, I did, Art. I was one of the first two that ever came down here to make it a custom.
About what year was that?
1920, and we stayed here in Orlando, in Tampa for 10 years, and then moved around here, and then finally got into the golden spot here in Orlando, which we love, and we hope to ever remain here.
The pepper game, an integral part of baseball training, helps groove the batting eye and sharpen defensive reflexes. Always a hotbed of activity, the sliding pit is a storm of flying dust as the Nats practice falling away and hooking the corner of the bag. The Nationals accomplish a threefold purpose with this drill as base runners attempt to outwit pitcher and first baseman on pickoff plays. Safe. Umpire Joe Paparella, assigned by the American League to work with the Washington club during spring training, clarifies a point for manager Dresson and his pitching staff. In another section of the field, Coach Ellis Clary runs the pitchers to build up their wind and strengthen their legs. Their morning drills completed, the players relax and sun themselves outside the clubhouse. Eddie Yost and Mickey Vernon seem happy about the Nats' prospects. Mr. Bo's color camera violates the privacy of the dressing room, where Doc Lentz has catcher Bruce Edwards' ailing arm wired in a neuromuscular stimulator. Players frequently ease their aches in the whirlpool bath. Doc Lentz and Eddie Yost go through this ankle taping routine prior to every game or practice session. Because of an old injury, Yost cannot play unless his ailing ankle is taped. A fresh supply of baseballs awaits the Nats for their afternoon workout and batting practice. If you've never had the opportunity to step up to the plate against Major League pitching, these unusual shots may give you some idea as to how American League batsmen feel when facing the likes of Bob Porterfield and Johnny Schmitz. Teach them young is the Nats' motto, as Eddie Yost gives batting tips to a young member of the Griffith family, 4-year-old Mike Robertson. The National's Public Relations and Publicity Department is under the direction of Howard Fox, who distributes news releases to Bert Hawkins, Bob Addy, Shirley Povich, and Dave Reckway, Washington baseball writers. The Nats take a day off from baseball for their annual spring golf tournament, sponsored by the National Brewing Company. Mr. Griffith tees off to open the tournament. Well, now, what have we here? No, it's not Slammin' Sammy Sneed. It's Arch No Par McDonald. Arch has a rather extensive retinue of assistants, but what say, Arch? Hurry your foursome up, or we'll never get to opening day. Thanks, Arch, old boy. Pete Runnels lays into his drive as if it were a 3-0 pitch. Mickey Vernon belts one that looks good for at least 2 bases. Who says pitchers can't hit? Bob Porterfield disproves that theory with a 200-yard drive right down the middle. Manager Charlie Dressen looks in good form, as does Norman Albany, Director of Sales Marketing at the National Brewing Company. By the seriousness with which Calvin Griffith addresses the ball, you know he's shooting for a prize. Pitcher Maury McDermott laments, "In this golf game, there are no foul balls." A guest competitor is Marlene Stewart, Canadian amateur champion. Bonus baby Harmon Killebrew is Marlene's partner, and it looks as if she'll be carrying the load. While the players prepare to tee off on the short par 3 ninth hole, the most interested spectator in attendance is Mr. Griffith, who on a friendly basis wagers 20 cents to a dime that they won't drive the green. Very few of them collect. On the green, Bruce Edwards misses a heartbreaker, and like everyone else, Bruce pays off. Incidentally, Mr. Griffith matches the pot and donates the proceeds to the March of Dimes. Chuck Cresson uses some questionable golf strategy by putting out of a trap. Still serious about this business of golf, Calvin Griffith lines up his putt and cans a beauty. At a buffet dinner and dance, Mr. Griffith presents trophies to the winning team of Jimmy Johnson and outfielder Jim Busby. Runner-up awards are presented by Calvin Griffith to Bob Porterfield and Hal Griggs. Calvin's serious golf paid off as he and his partner Bert Hawkins accept the third-place prizes from Pat Roach, Vice President in charge of sales for the National Brewing Company, who are the tournament sponsors. Golf is forgotten, and once again baseball is the business at hand as Calvin Griffith lends an ear to a diamond discussion among Mr. Griffith, manager Charlie Dressen, and assistant farm director Sherry Robertson. What promise does the coming season hold for the Washington Nationals? That's the topic of this confab between Chuck Dressen and his board of strategy. In Chuck's opinion, the best way to determine the capabilities of his players is through actual game competition. So intra-squad games comprise a goodly portion of the Nats' training schedule. During these games, manager Dressen is able to see how players react to the situations and the problems that they'll face in actual championship play. It also gives Chuck an opportunity to offer suggestions to his players out on the field of play. Dressen's fondness for a running team is reflected as his charges practice the squeeze play. Their conditioning behind them, the Nationals pose for a team picture prior to their exhibition tour north and opening day in Washington. Meanwhile, at Griffith Stadium in Washington, Edward Einen, secretary and assistant treasurer of the Nationals, is busy with the administrative chores connected with the operation of a major league ball club. Secretary Margaret Torpy channels an inquiry concerning tickets to ticket manager John Morrissey, whose staff processes all such requests, as well as handling reservations and direct sales for all Washington home games. Groundskeepers apply the final touches to the playing field. On opening day, the stands are filled to capacity as the Nationals make their debut against the Baltimore Orioles. The Robertson twins, Jimmy and Billy, in charge of concessions, see to it that appetites of hungry spectators are satisfied. The United States Army Band adds prestige and color to traditional opening day ceremonies. The #1 spectator in attendance is the President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who stands at attention while the Army Band plays Hail to the Chief. The band is joined by Calvin Griffith, managers Charlie Dressen and Paul Richards, and Commissioner Spencer as it marches to center field for the flag-raising ceremony. For the Nats, Bob Porterfield draws the opening day pitching assignment. For Baltimore, speedballer Luke Kretlow will be on the hill. Holding the pitching spotlight right now, however, is President Eisenhower, who's warming up to throw out the first ball. There it goes. There's a wild scramble for the treasured souvenir, and the lucky winner is Washington second baseman Pete Runnels. Pete presents the ball to the president and is all smiles as President Eisenhower autographs it for him. Airing the opening day festivities over radio and TV are Arch McDonald and yours truly, Bob Wolfe. Moving into the bottom of the third, it's a scoreless pitcher's duel as Luke Kretlow faces Bob Porterfield. Porterfield wins the first round of this pitcher's battle as he booms a mighty blast to left center field that's good for 2 bases. Eddie Yost is hit by a pitched ball and is awarded first base. Kretlow stretches, checks the runners, then uncorks a wild pitch. Porterfield advances to third, and Yost moves to second base. Mickey Vernon steps into the batter's box and grounds to first. Porterfield beats the throw home, and Washington scores its first run of the season. Yost takes third in the play while Vernon is safe at first. The next hitter is Pete Runnels, who grounds out catcher to first, but on the play, Yost streaks home to give the Nats a 2-0 lead. Porterfield is going strong, but in the top of the fifth, he loses control momentarily as Cal Abrams draws a base on balls. Al Smith hits to shortstop Bob Klein. Klein's throw pulls Runnels off second. Abrams is safe and Smith is on first. Willie Miranda steps in and attempts to sacrifice. Bruce Edwards' throw goes by first base, and Abrams races across to score for Baltimore. Baltimore manager Paul Richards, #12, argues that Smith should have been permitted to score too, but as usual, the umpires win the discussion. Porterfield faces his pitching counterpart Luke Kretlow, who drills a single to left. The ball gets away from Sievers, and both Smith and Miranda score, giving Baltimore a 3-2 edge. In the 6th inning, Washington's Roy Sievers draws a walk. Tommy Umflett lines a base hit through the middle and advances Sievers to second, and the Nats are threatening. Pinch hitter Jess Levan comes through in the clutch with a safety to center field. Sievers races around the bases and scores to knock the count at 3-off. The Orioles summon assistance from the bullpen in the person of Bill Miller. Another pinch hitter, pint-sized Ernie Orovets, hits into a fielder's choice, but a wild throw permits Umflett to score with ease, giving Washington a 4-3 lead. The Nats still have runners on 2nd and 3rd. Reliever Don Johnson comes on to pitch to Bob Porterfield. Porterfield flies to left. Pinch runner Bob Oldus tags up and checks in with the Nats' 5th run. It's Washington 5-3 over Baltimore. President Eisenhower joins the crowd in the traditional 7th inning stretch. For Washington, Eddie Yost opens the 7th inning by cracking a single through the hole into left field. Don Johnson pitches to Jim Busby. Busby connects on the hit and run. Yost off with the crack of the bat, scampers all the way to the far turn. A timely hit by Jim Busby. Don Peresi walks Runnels to load the bases. Roy Sievers follows with a solid smash to center field. Runnels slides safely into third as both Yost and Busby score on the play. Mr. Griffith and President Eisenhower are beaming. Another Oriole pitcher, Bob Alexander, fails to stem the tide as Umflett doubles to left to drive Runnels and Sievers over the plate with the 7th and 8th Washington runs. The Nats aren't finished yet. Jerry Snyder loops a safety down the left field line. Tommy Umflett scores the 5th run of the inning, and that gives Washington a comfortable 10-3 advantage after 7 innings. Bob Porterfield goes the distance as he gets pinch hitter Charlie Maxwell on a fly ball to Roy Sievers that ends the game as the Nationals defeat the Orioles 12-5. And Washington is off to a successful start in another thrilling American League season.
So dawns another Major League Baseball season. With it, we extend our best wishes to the Washington Nationals for a big year ahead. We're behind the team, and win, lose, or draw, we know they'll be going all out to win every game. Regardless of the outcome, though, whether it's a series or a season, it's a real privilege to be able to enjoy a great sport like baseball, from the little leagues to the major leagues. So come on out and join in the fun. We'll be looking for you at Griffith Stadium.